everyone. Welcome to fmtraining.tv, where we have another amazing day of FileMaker and discuss the fantastic FileMaker platform. This is their last day of our LiveCode session. We've had 10 wonderful days with Kevin Miller, Ali, and everyone else in the LiveCode team has been absolutely fantastic. We've loved having him here. It's been great. Today is going to be kind of like our open Q&A, so if you have questions, please ask them, because that is what we are doing today. So thank you again, everyone, for coming. Real quick, we're going to cover what's coming up on the live stream training schedule. Building Android apps with LiveCode Day 10, as we're doing it right now. We're going to have Nick Hunter from Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday is going to be the pause on error recap. Friday is going to be an open Q&A. And then next Tuesday, actually, another one of our senior engineers has come back around to discuss PCI compliance. So that should be interesting. So we do have a couple openings. So if you happen to have ideas or things that you would like to see on perhaps Thursday or Monday, we would greatly appreciate you submitting those. We will find something, don't you worry. There'll be something happening those days. But if you have an idea of something that you would like to see specifically, we would greatly appreciate that. So feel free to toss them our way. If you would like to continue to support the channel, we do have these. We have the Learning FileMaker annual subscriptions. And these are both about 100 plus hours of video content. One comes with a FileMaker license, one does not. Both basically cover our extended video training courses on very specific subjects. So if you are like, well, I really like watching the live streams, but I don't like, that we get off topic, or I don't like, that we don't talk about this or this or this or this. This is kind of for you. These are basically ways to teach yourself the FileMaker platform thoroughly in about 10 to 15 animated segments, minutes in animated segments. There we go, forgot a word. And we cover a lot. We cover pretty much FM server, FileMaker server, Webdirect Pro, Go, you name it, we talk about it. And it's from Richard, so it's very entertaining. So there's that. So today we have Kevin Miller, who is the CEO of LiveCode. We've got Miles Debsky, who is our senior engineer of Wonder. And then we have Ali. Did I say that right? I keep messing up your name and I feel bad.
Ali.
Sorry, there's two ways to pronounce it, and I always go for the wrong one. I forget exactly. I know that you're the product manager, right?
Sort of project manager, but also an engineer.
Yes, so you're both. I know that you are our thinking expert who has discussed all the wonderful things about thinking. So thank you three for being here. I kind of had an idea, Kevin, because we had a couple questions over the last couple days about licensing. I know we did talk about it on day one.
Sure, yeah.
But I think it would be worth our time to go over that again. What is the cost structure with LiveCode FM with only supplying runtime solutions, for example?
Okay, so our cost is similar to FileMaker in the sense that we have a named user structure or a concurrent structure. And our cost per seat is 1/3 of that of FileMaker. So a 5-user pack starts at $299 a year for named users. And for concurrent users, in a very similar way to FileMaker, it is 3 times that. If your application does not connect back to FileMaker at all, then it is what we call an offline app. It may connect to other things. It can connect to web services or other data sources, but as long as it doesn't connect to FileMaker, we consider it to be offline. And there is lower pricing for that, and there's even a royalty-free option for that as well. So it just depends on what you need to do.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully that answer. I don't know who asked that. I believe it was someone on Twitch. It might have been Woody DK, actually. I did the bad thing where I wrote down the questions and then didn't write down the people who had asked them like a brilliant person. So this one got asked a while back, but we didn't quite get to it. I mean, we kind of covered this yesterday, but I figure since it's such a big, thick deal, it would be worth covering again. What is the difference between Lcfm Web Runtime with Webdirect?
Okay, so the main difference, the biggest difference really, is that the LiveCode for FM web output runs client side. So what happens is that your FileMaker solution, through a series of steps, gets compiled to become a browser-based JavaScript application. And so Webdirect has to connect back continuously to our FileMaker server. And in fact, it has quite a heavyweight connection because a lot of the decisions on what to draw and render and so forth are actually taking place on the server. So that means that it's very limited in terms of the number of people that you can connect at once. And it also means that it can't work offline at all. LiveCode for FM, the forthcoming web component, because it's all running client side, it only needs to connect back to the server when it needs to make an update or to do a sync. So we sync back using the data API. And if you lose connection and then reconnect later, then your data, your app will continue to run in the browser and your data will be synced when it's able to get a connection. And it uses exactly the same syncing mechanism that we use across our Android, Mac, Windows, and iOS native clients. So if you've gone to the trouble of setting things up, whether that's the automatic sync options that we have, or whether you've configured it to sync manually at certain points so that the user has a smooth experience, all the same changes and script steps will work exactly the same in the web client. And so it means that you can have quite a number more web clients running because you're not putting that pressure on the server.
Which is awesome. Like, seriously, that is one of the most exciting things I have heard about in like an age. So, I know we had a couple people that were kind of like, oh, it's just Android related, which I think if anything, these live streams have shown back is that LiveCode is not just an Android related product. It is a lot
absolutely.
more than that.
Yeah.
So between fixing the runtime issue and the web issue and everything else, so.
Yeah, no, we like to say that we're about redefining the possible and making FileMaker even better.
Which you, I think, have definitely shown that you have accomplished. Okay, so this was kind of a question that never got asked, but I don't know if it ever came up again. What are the minimum specs for using LC for building an app? Memory, processor, disk space, etc.
So the minimum spec for the tool, I'm not actually sure what the oldest OS version we support is. Or do you know that, Ali? I can't actually.
Well, it's really dictated by FileMaker because we don't support. Yeah, you really need FileMaker 19 because of some fixes in the DDR export, and I believe FileMaker 19 only works on High Sierra and above.
That's the minimum. And then beyond that, it really does come down to how heavy your solution is in terms of memory requirements and RAM and things like that. The solution is loaded into memory, so you do need to have enough memory to run it.
This is kind of related to what we were previously discussing, but I figure it's worth hammering home because this did get asked at one point. Besides Android, can LiveCode be used for solving other not supported FM features, act as a middleware to support other in-house business apps?
Yeah, absolutely. LiveCode's built, LiveCode for FM is built on LiveCode, which is our multi-platform development environment that supports quite a large range of features, a much more extensive range of features than FileMaker supports, and can also go out and do things like connect to operating system libraries and wrap pretty much any third-party library directly. So it's very easy for us to add features if you need them, if you need to be able to do something that's not in the standard platform. And we've done that, I think, in a handful of cases already. There was one case where the designer of the app needed the app to send notifications when the location of the app changed rather than polling for location changes. So we set that up. I think there was another one to allow you to overlay content on top of video whilst it was being captured. But I mean, it really just depends on what you need. We can add features. And the same goes really for the LiveCode for FM for the web as well. We'll push very hard to use everything that the browser lets you do, and we can really push the envelope there and make sure that we can hook into the various different extended functions that browsers have these days, like taking photos and stuff like that.
Just another couple of things. If if people are interested, that we've already added as extended script steps, there's the ability to take a snapshot of the screen. There's the ability to lock orientation so it doesn't rotate when the device is rotated, and preventing the device from sleeping as well. So yeah, they're just a few of the other things that we've added.
All of which are exceptionally awesome. Exceptionally, I can speak English. That's all very cool. So we do have another okay, so from Ian in Twitch. With the future web deployment of the native app, will local tables be supported? So if the browser is closed and then reopened to the app, will the local data still be present?
I believe that we do cache the data locally, and there is a mechanism for that. I don't know too much about the details for that. Ali, do you know anything more about that?
Yeah, we still need to sort of come up with exactly how we're going to do that, but it's definitely doable, and that will definitely be a goal for the web product.
Okay, so the answer is you're working on it and you're aware of it, but not quite there yet, which is understandable considering it's not even released. A question from Woody DKW. Clarification on pricing, please. Your standard pricing refers to a number of users. If a client user has an Android app and a desktop app, is that classified as one user or two? Is there a change in pricing if I have several different solutions?
So a user is a person, and we don't distinguish between them using it on the desktop or on a phone. So they're welcome to use it on more than one if that's what they need to do. And the pricing, you can buy it for different solutions. So, for example, if you're a consultant and you're building apps for different companies, and it might be that your client buys the user pack for their solution, or you can simply buy a number of seats and use them across lots of solutions. We don't really make much of a distinction there. But I will say that the more seats you buy, the cheaper it gets. So there are discounts for volume.
Okay, let me know if that answers your question, Woody. If not, please ask a follow-up and we'll get back to you. Ryan LeClaire on YouTube. If using the web-based LiveCode, does that mean that the app won't need to be created for iOS or Android? Anyone can access it through a browser? ?
So this is the whole question as to when you're designing your app, is this particular app something that's going to be better done in a browser, or is this going to be an app that's better done as a native app? So the answer is, will you be able to run it in a browser on most devices? Yes, absolutely you will. And for certain types of application, building a browser-based app is a really good way to go, because the end user doesn't have to install any software or know very much about it. They can just navigate in there, do a quick task, and leave. So it makes it ideal for a whole huge category of applications that just work really well with that. But I think we also have to remember that there are lots of cases where actually a native app is going to be better. It's installed, it has that presence on the device, it has access to more of the device native features. Performance can be better for a native app running on the device. So I mean, it goes in the App Store. I mean, it really does just depend on what it is that you're trying to build, and on how much of your operating system you need to have access to, and how rich the app is, and how deep the app is. But it's a choice, and it's very similar. Obviously, FileMaker gives you that choice to an extent as well, with Webdirect versus things like Go, and we give you that same choice. That's the idea. So it just depends on what you're trying to build.
Okay, let me know if that answers your question, Ryan. We got another. Oh, Woody DK, so that did answer his question about licensing, so we're good there. Mai Lani. Is LC or FM the more feature-rich solution for those of us deciding on a database solution? Are there any features available on FM not available on LC, and vice versa, besides the Android standalone?
So, I mean, the two products are generally used together. It's not so much a case of one of them replacing the other. The workflow is very much that you build your application initially in FileMaker and then use LiveCode for FM to compile it. We support at the moment 88% of the FileMaker feature set, and if you run the product through the compiler, then it will give you a report on any features that aren't as yet supported, and that feature support is continuously increasing. Outside that, of course, though, we are adding our own custom features around what customers want, access to native OS. A few of the examples that we gave just a few minutes ago, and certainly we will become something that is more feature rich than FileMaker over time.
Hopefully that answers your question, Mai. Okay, so we've got 2 from David Angel. I'm going to take the easier one first. When the sync is pushed, if a locked record prevents from updating, the client receives a notification? ?
I'll give that one to you, Ali.
It would, let me think about what would actually happen. So the sync engine would get an error code that it couldn't update that record, and then it would stop trying to sync and then try again. So yeah, if you had used a manual sync, then you would get an error code back in get last error that you could use to display some information to the user. I think in general, although this doesn't preclude other approaches in the future, our sync has been kind of designed for per client, kind of where the client app owns the record, and it's not likely to be locked on the server at the time that you try to sync. But obviously, if you're using manual sync and it fails and you can feed that back, then you can just advise the user to try again later. Yeah, so that's hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, I mean, with automatic sync, there's just a retry if it's not able to get the sync done the first time, and it's very similar. For example, the internet connection has dropped out. It can just sit there quite happily and try again in a bit. So it's very tolerant to that sort of condition.
Although in practice, what might happen there is if the record is locked because it's being modified, then the record on the server would have a later modification timestamp, and that would
then you'll have a conflict.
Okay, let me know if that answers your question, David. He's typing, so we'll see. Kind of a follow-up, or it's more of a open-ended, but it's kind of interesting. He mentioned that learning more about the sync functions included in the plugin would be interesting. Since we didn't, or I don't know how well we covered those when we had the discussion about it.
Yeah, I guess I mentioned setting the table constraints and just using the sync and request sync script steps that we have. Beyond that, most of the other ones are just the ability to control settings which are available in the tool itself. So when you set things like the retry count, maybe I've actually given an example there which you can't control at runtime. So automatic sync is a good example of this, where in the tool you can choose whether to start the app with automatic sync enabled or disabled, but you can also use the script steps and functions to set and get the value of that at runtime. So you could have your app starting off with no automatic sync, but then maybe part of your app works better with automatic sync on, and then when you move away from that part, you turn it back off again. So that's most of the other script steps that do that. The remaining ones, well, so there's there's ones relating to the deferred container cache, where you can get the number of bytes currently in the cache, and you can set the cache limit and get the cache limit. And then there are another couple that allow you to set the server address, change the server address, and change the account details that are being used to log into the server. So that's kind of an overview of all of the ones there are. I don't know if there are any from those that are particularly interesting.
If there's a specific one that isn't clear, I mean, feel free to ask us.
Yeah.
Yes. So, David, if there's like something specific more that you want to talk about, let me know and I will forward it. To return to the previous record lock conversation, he asked 2 follow-up questions. So when the record is released, it will be updated. How many times will it retry?
Well, if you're using manual sync, then it will just return an error code. If you're using automatic sync, then it will just continue to retry until there's a retry count.
You can set it actually in the tool. There's a screen where you can choose how many times it will retry. Not sure what the default is from the top of my head.
That's
the default is 0, which means keep retrying.
Right. Of course it does. Only a developer would think that 0 meant go on forever.
Well, we could make it infinity if you would like.
I would, but anyway, it's maybe not the highest thing on the list of feature requests.
Oh, that's funny. I appreciate that. Okay, let me look real quick. I'm gonna go ahead and we'll answer this one a couple times, but we'll ask it again because I think it's worth driving home because it's so mind-blowing to FileMaker people who live with Webdirect. If there is no internet at the time of use of the web app, can it be used offline?
Yes, it can. I mean, provided you were able to get it, obviously, when there was internet and it had all successfully downloaded, then yeah, it will continue to run just fine offline. I kind of demoed that yesterday, but I had to cut you all off. This being a live demonstration, but it does load fully. It's a fully featured app. All the logic, all your script steps and everything are all in the browser and just running as JavaScript. So it just continues to go along quite merrily and just realizes that it can't sync, and then when it gets a connection, it will sync.
So basically, if you're going to go into the middle of nowhere, open it first and then drive that way.
That's right, yeah. I mean, you can usually take these web apps and wrap them in something as well. I mean, there are all kinds of different wrappers that you can get if you want to build a little thing that has kind of the web app content locally and install it on the device. That's the other way to do it. So either navigate to the page or use one of the wrappers out there to do that, so that the actual app itself has been downloaded.
How does your syncing handle big tables? A full sync does not seem practical. Any recommendations how to split into smaller chunks?
Yeah, so how to split the table. Is that table constraints and also just choosing which tables to sync, I guess, are the answers. Yeah, I guess you want to. So, I mean, there are going to be some tables probably in your app that everyone needs all of the data for, and actually that stuff you could bundle with the app and make it not sync. So that could be kind of fixed.
There's an option during the compile process to choose to include data, so you can choose to include that data and bake it into the app.
And then in general, you pretty much want, I mean, it works best with apps where there's kind of a user login and there are a set of records that are relevant to a particular user, and you can just use the sync constraints to restrict the data to ones which have a given foreign key, which would be the user ID. But there's all sorts of other things you can do. I mean, you can use timestamps to say, I don't want to sync down any records that are older than a day, or anything you can do pretty much in an execute SQL where clause is something you can include as a sync constraint. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how flexible it is in terms of saying these are the exact records from this table that I actually want the user to have on their device.
Is syncing safe for transaction using two related tables? First sync table 1 and then lose connection when syncing table 2, what happens?
Yeah, so I think I answered this by kind of saying no, it's not strictly transaction safe for that situation. The part of the reason is that the data API doesn't give you that option to sort of build a transaction and have it all either succeed or fail. So we go on a record by record basis and sync up the changes. Now, because the local app is essentially a perfect replica data-wise of the in terms of the data model of the remote app, then eventually when that's all synced, as long as no modifications have been made on the server, it will attain parity again with what you would expect. So yeah, there's that caveat. As long as no one modifies anything in the meantime, if you think that is going to happen, then you obviously have to put in some sort of mechanism for dealing with that. And there's kind of various. I mean, I'm not. There are FileMaker experts who are probably better to advise as how to do that than me. But the other point here is that there's a lot of scope for us to improve that situation. So we've got the tool generates this interface solution, and there's nothing. It doesn't really do anything fancy yet. It's pretty much just a view of all of the tables. But we could potentially add stuff to that to verify kind of like to hold synced data until it's ready, and then do something transaction safe there. So there's scope to improve the situation in terms of that. Hopefully that's I think that's a better answer than I gave last time.
There we go. Guess so that's why we have Q&A, so we can rehash. Yes, the question that sorry, Kevin, I'm going to ask it anyway, but I know the answer's kind of like, will that be in the near beta for about I think for the offline sync for the web version? Will that be in the near beta then if it's fully featured? I'm excited to try it.
Yeah, I mean, I have to just steer clear of giving an absolute guarantee on this. And yesterday, but you almost succeeded in pinning me down. And today, I mean, I've even got one of our engineering lead on the call, and he literally killed me. So I can't tell you that. I can tell you that we hope to have it really soon. We have been working on it all summer. It is coming together. I don't think it's going to be too much longer, but I can't give you a date as yet, unfortunately, as much as I want to.
Yes, it's just not possible. No, I totally get that, but some of those things we're going to forward the question anyway because it keeps getting asked because people are like, well, when can I have the new shiny amazing toy?
I know,
Just
I
like
know.
waved
I
it in
can't
front of my
wait.
face.
I just want to get it out. I know.
It's like, I don't know if you ever did that as a kid where you took like wrapped presents and shook it trying to figure out what it was.
Oh yeah.
Does LiveCode convert to an SQL database?
We're still using FileMaker as the backend database. Is the answer to that. I mean, we use a variety of different technologies on the client side, but yeah, we don't. There's nothing there visible that you can touch. So we don't really sort of say very much more than that. But for the server side, we're just connecting that to FileMaker.
Well, there we go. Does the Lcfm Android client communicate to FileMaker server through Dappy? ?
Yes.
Okay.
It does.
So then another follow-up. So I don't need a FileMaker client license for the Android client? ?
So I mean, I think that the FileMaker licensing does require you to have seats for all of the clients, including for Android clients these days. The EULA this year was updated, so as far as I know, it does. What I will say is that LiveCode for FM is very efficient in terms of the amount of time it spends connected to the server, unlike a native FileMaker client, which is continuously connected. LiveCode for FM makes very short connections that are a second or two long. So concurrent licensing is in many cases a more efficient option, but you do, as far as I understand it, have to license your users. I mean, that really is a question for Claris rather than for us. But that's my understanding of it roughly.
What is automatic scaling?
Ali, do you want to take that one?
Can do, yeah. So it's basically a strategy for making the app full screen on a given device. So you can do if you scaled things to there's letterbox, for example, where it would have black at the top and bottom like that, and then squeeze the make it full screen, but with black at the top and bottom. There's things like they'd be scaled to like stretched to all of the corners of the device. There's exact fit. There's various. Basically, it's just a sort of a different way of scaling the screen to fit the device.
There are so many devices out there with so many different screen resolutions, so it helps. What we find is that scaling is good if your app needs to be a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller. But if you're going to go for a completely different type of device, so if you're going to go, for example, from a phone to a tablet, you probably want to have different layout for that, because you'll get a much better result. But within all the various different sizes and shapes of phone, you might want to look at the scaling options.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. From Ian on Twitch, can you define a concurrent user in Lcfm, please?
The current user in Lcfm is somebody who has the app running.
So
I think there is a time window. I'm not absolutely sure from the top of my head what it is. If you drop a line to support, we can confirm that. But yeah, it's somebody who has the app open and running.
So let me know if that answers your question, Ian, or if you want something more specific. Or I mean, that's pretty, but like time, or like drop an email to support if you want to know the exact limit for that. Like when does someone get kicked? if I have a Windows machine, do I need a Mac to send the app to the Apple App Store?
Yes, unfortunately, at the moment, and at the moment we don't yet have a Windows tool, so you need a Mac period to use this platform at the moment. However, as and when we do a Windows tool, the restriction is not technical. There is no reason why we can't get around all of those problems, but there is, I believe, a problem in the licensing from Apple which would prevent us from doing that. If there is enough interest, we might build a cloud service that's based on Macs to do that. It really does depend, and that wouldn't be something that's imminent, but maybe a bit down the road as we get through the rest of the feature set, if that's something that keeps coming up. But as it stands, and certainly in the immediate and to medium term future, I would say the answer to that is yes, and it's an Apple requirement.
Yeah, I don't know if we've really touched on this at all, so I just want to make sure in case we didn't. But multi-file solutions, is that possible? And if so, is there anything to keep in mind, or you need to have this, or just anything kind of at the high level about that?
It's definitely possible. You can add all of your files. You just drag drop more files onto the tool at the start of the process. It'll accept them perfectly happily. Is there anything you need to think about in terms of that, Ali? I don't think there is there?
No, I'm trying to think. We don't support external data source defined by a variable at the moment. That's maybe a sort of edge case that you might need to be aware of. But yeah, you can actually kind of, if you wanted to, put into essentially completely disconnected FileMaker solutions and compile them together in such a way that you could choose in the tool which sort of initial layout to be on and make that the one app. So yeah, there are sort of additional possibilities, I suppose. But I'm not entirely sure if there's a use case for that.
The other thing I would say is you can't obviously open a FileMaker file at runtime inside LiveCode for FM because the file has to be compiled. So if there are additional files that you need to use for whatever reason, then make sure that you compile them all at the start of the process and that they're all in the solution.
Okay. And I think we addressed this a few days ago, but just in case we have new people here, if you have plugins for your database, are those also getting compiled?
Okay, so if the plugin is purely FileMaker based and everything runs inside FileMaker, like FileMaker script steps, like for example MirrorSync is, then yes, it will work because we're just compiling that app in the same way that we would compile any other FileMaker file. But other plugins that maybe hook into libraries and things like that, they're not supported at the moment. It's LiveCode for FM is a very different beast. It's a very different environment from FileMaker, and obviously, an external library that's running on Mac or iOS isn't going to run on Android anyway. But what I will say is that if there's something that you need, it's very easy for us to add functionality. So just get in touch and you can add a hook to something that you might need on Android or on any of the other platforms that we support. It's very easy for us to do that. The other thing I suppose that's worth mentioning there as well is that we are going to add the ability reasonably soon to extend the platform using LiveCode. And of course, in LiveCode, you can choose to wrap pretty much any piece of functionality or create your own functionality as well. So that's coming soon. That's quite an accessible way of adding extra capabilities directly yourself that sit outside the LiveCode for FM universe and outside the FileMaker universe.
Very cool.
I have one on Twitch, kind of a follow-up to the concurrent user question. How do you detect that their app is running?
So we have a licensing tracking system, and we know when apps are running, and we know whether you register when you register a named user, and we know essentially how many users you have running. You can log into that portal yourself with a LiveCode for FM account and see what your users are up to as well.
Okay. I think you kind of answered this, but I'm going to ask again real quick. Does Lcfm support external database sources like a graph database?
External database sources, I mean, if they're FileMaker based, they need to be compiled into the app at the point of compilation, because you can't just open a FileMaker file. What was the other sort of database there?
Graph database, which I think is for improved graphs for FileMaker, Miles. I don't know.
Well, I mean, yeah, you can have, I mean, external sources that aren't FileMaker, right? So
Yeah.
maybe that's what they're, something like that.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can indeed. I mean, FileMaker supports RESTful APIs. It's got a full URL library. You can hook into just about anything else. So yeah, I mean, some people actually use FileMaker to build front ends because it's got quite a good UI development feature set, and then they use something else entirely using RESTful APIs to store the data. All of that will work. And remember that if your app does not connect back to FileMaker, then it doesn't need any Claris licensing, and we will our licensing is lower, and there is a royalty-free option as well. So we do have that use case covered.
Well, there you go. Hopefully that answers your question, Ryan. If not, please ask a follow-up one. I'm developing a private app for a customer. Can I distribute it without the App Store? For example, from the company's personal website.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing to think about there is iOS on Android. That's really very easy. The Android operating system is a much less of a walled garden. So you can pretty much have people download an app. You might want to do things like sign it to make it look so users don't have to change security settings and things like that. But essentially, it's easy to do. You can do that, in fact, on all of the platforms, with the exception of iOS, which is obviously Apple's very tightly walled garden. And beyond putting apps on it through your test-file account, which you're obviously not supposed to do beyond testing, either you go through the App Store for iOS, or there is the Apple Enterprise program where you can sign up, and you can have, I think it's essentially a private app store for your company. I think there are various requirements in that, not least of which you need to have at least 100 employees in the company to qualify for that. But for all the other app platforms, yeah, it's very straightforward.
Okay, I think I have two more, and then if anyone has any last ones to send in, this is your reminder. Let's see. One was, I know we were just talking about APIs a minute ago. So is it possible to have different API accounts for different app configurations to be more secure? I can imagine a subscriber model with different content to the individual subscribers and not have to pass over all data and hide them in the app.
Yeah, absolutely it is. You can have a database that contains login information and user information. That can be based in FileMaker. You could have a separate RESTful API web service that you log into to get that data. And then you can set the solution name, the server address, the account name, and stuff like that to log into different databases. And also, as Ali mentioned a little bit earlier, when you're doing syncing, if you're doing a kind of login username and password type system, then you can tag databases with the ID of a given user so that you only sync records that are relevant, for example, to that user.
Right. And then the last one, I know we talked at the beginning about system requirements for Lcfm is kind of based on you need FileMaker 19 and what that requires. Are there requirements for devices like Android, iOS?
Yeah, so in terms of the Android side of things, we recommend that you have a device that has a Geekbench score on a single core of 300 or more. So if you go over to the Geekbench site and you navigate across to their Android page, they have a list of devices which are sorted by the Geekbench score on a single core. And we recommend one that's over 300. Obviously, your solution is really deep and really intensive, then it might perform better with something that's a bit higher than that. That's the minimum spec. I can't remember what the earliest Android version we go back to is. It's several versions ago. I don't know if you know that from the top of your head, Ali. It's quite a few years back that we go. Is it 7?
Yeah,
I want to say.
I was going to say 7. Yeah, I think
it's 7. Yeah. It will be somewhere in the README or in the user guide, but I think it's 7. In terms of iOS, we go back as far as Apple let us, I think. Is that right, Ali?
Yeah. Yeah, I think What was so I think it might be 11 now. That's the earliest. Pretty sure it's still run on iOS 11. Yeah. And actually, for Mac, if you're building Mac apps, the end user apps will run on earlier versions of Mac than FileMaker 19 will. So that's sort of an interesting aside.
All right, and last one I'm seeing, if someone wanted to completely change over to LiveCode from FileMaker, can you migrate FileMaker over to LiveCode easily? So I think they're talking about actual LiveCode.
Okay, so yeah, talking about the kind of the main LiveCode product rather than LiveCode for FM. I mean, we're not really targeting moving people from FileMaker across to LiveCode with this. LiveCode is a development platform that has its own strengths and weaknesses. And FileMaker is it's a slightly different platform with a different set of capabilities. And our goal with LiveCode for FM is really to augment and improve what you can do inside the FileMaker space rather than move people outside of that space. So if you wanted to move to LiveCode, you'd have to build your app the LiveCode way, which is really very, very different to FileMaker.
That's all I have. If anyone wants to hear about new things coming or be up to date on all that, what's the best place they should go?
Yeah, absolutely. If you could, it's just our website is filemaker.livecode.com, and then if you go to /RCC, and if you sign up there to be kept in the loop, we do have a surprise offer which we will send out to anybody that signs up. And from that, as a thank you for watching this series. So filemaker.livecode.com /RCC is the page to sign up to stay in the loop. And we'll send you all the updates as we make progress and as we get that web product out the door and the Windows build and all the various other things that we've talked about over the course of this series.
Perfect. Yeah, I just shared that. And yeah, these all have been recorded and will be released. I think up on our YouTube as of today, we have through day 8, and 9 and 10 will obviously be coming.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. This has been a really, really awesome. No, sorry, I was briefly distracted by the endless commentary from people is always entertaining. But this has been a really, really awesome series. Like having you guys come back and talk through everything has been really fantastic. Announcement has all been fantastic. I believe you guys have done bug fixes while this has been going on, which is incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
So.
I know. I think Will was embarrassed that he'd have to present with that issue with the safe area after the question was asked on the first day. So he had it fixed by the time it was his turn to present. We like to be responsive. But hey, thanks to everybody, very much for attending this, for all of the great questions, for your interest in what we're doing. And also just like a huge thank you, Miles and Margaret, you've really been so organized and so professional and so helpful. It's been an absolute pleasure, and it was really great for you guys and everybody at RCC to organize this and put this together. We're really incredibly grateful to have had this opportunity.
No, thank you. This has been very fun, and I hope that some point we have you guys on again soon. Maybe when web launches.
Absolutely.
We would love to have you back.
Awesome.
That would be a very fun. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Well, yeah.
So thank you so much, you guys. We will catch you hopefully at some point in the future. You all have a lovely evening.
Certainly will.
And thank you again. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.
guys just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected the quarterback. Great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Trying to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap. Stands in, throws it left for Amendola. Reaches up and snacks a high throw and lands inside the 10. Rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, but Danny makes the grab.